So essentially, back in September, I went to the great state of New Jersey to do some volunteering and research on the Pollenskill River and freshwater mussels. But we'll get to that soon.
So we've made it down to the Pollenskill. First time wearing a wetsuit. Maybe one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever worn. It's also 81 degrees, and I've lost 5 pounds worth of sweat. Creek is right there. Guy who organized this forgot something, so he's running back to go get it at his car, and then we'll get in the water. So we're here at the Pollenskill River, which is a river in North Jersey, right around this area. And we're here, it's part of the Delaware River. You know, it all kind of flows into each other tributary. So we're looking for these, the dwarf wedge mussel. Now, the dwarf wedge mussels are actually fascinating creatures. They're filter feeders. So really what they mean is that they have a pump that pushes water through their gills, and through that they can remove certain particles, algae, bacteria, and pollutants, which can help clear water quality and clean water at an extremely fast rate. Not to be confused with the Asian clam or the zebra mussel, which also live in the area, and if we found them, we would have to just destroy them, like, gone. But the wedge mussels, we wanted to find as many as we can. Now, there's a lot of wedge mussels, and throughout that, there's a lot of other mussels just hiding about. But, you know, there's a couple easy ways to tell what's a wedge mussel, what's not a wedge mussel. Mostly they're very trapezoidal shape. They're around an inch long. They have teeth on their hinge, which is up here. And they like to live in silt or sand, where the other ones just kind of like to live anywhere they can. Now, something that makes it hard for these to really clean our water is that they're getting killed a lot because of, you know, extra population. They're being outcompeted by other species. They're getting eaten by raccoons, which apparently is one of their primary predators. Is one thing I learned on this. Too much erosion. And also they can't reproduce as much because they reproduced by putting their eggs on a host fish, which is the mottled sculpin, which I have personally never catched, but it looks kind of cool. And they're decreasing in numbers too, so it's just becoming overall hard for this poor little mussel. Anyway, that's enough of it for now. Let's get back to the diving forum.
Your own mask?
Yeah, of course.
All right, so this is the part that is a little bit funny and squeamish, but I'm going to recommend we do it because this is going to be the easiest thing, is we spit.
This is Eric, kind of the man with the plan, whole setup, this whole thing, part of the Delaware River Keeper Network. And he's the only one I'll be pointing out because, I'll be honest, I forgot if the other people said I could say who they were or not, but I do remember he did. So, you know.
In our masks, right? So we don't want our masks to fog up. And so, and you're going to do this all day long, right? So you spit one side, you spit the next side. Every time we pop up and we do the count, we'll do 15-minute intervals once we start the counts. As soon as you take your mask off, just pop up, spit in your mask while we're talking. It's like, it just should come as second nature as you're constantly spitting.
If y'all missed that, pretty much how this works is that we will all be in the river, and we will separate it into 4 separate sections, one for each examiner, if you will, and we will go down a certain portion of the river for 15 minutes. And we will count as many freshwater mussels as we possibly can, in that amount of time without leaving our boundary.
This is what's kind of crazy is that it almost doesn't feel circlable. And this is where we're going to come in. And we're only going to spend a few minutes here, like 5 to 10 minutes, and then I'm going to grab the tube, and we're going to float down to past where these trees are, because we're going to see different habitat. Here it's going to be rockier, more cobble, right? And so you're going to be not looking, of course, on top of the rocks, right? You're going to be looking at the contact where all the rocks meet. Look for mussels. And in this first 5 or 10 minutes, anybody who finds a mussel, say, whoa, I got one, right? And we'll all come over and we'll see it. Don't tap it, don't disturb it. Because again, part of what we want to see is we want to see the mussel open. And as soon as you tap it, they'll close up and they'll pull their siphons in, kind of thing. So just be like, whoa, I think I've got one. As you're surveying though, and if you see something and you're like, as we're doing like the survey in your own lane and those are your own mussels, if you're like, is that really a mussel? Feel free to reach out and give it a tap, and that is part of the reason.
If it pulls in, it's
yeah,
a mussel.
it's alive, right? Yeah, exactly, live or dead. If it doesn't pull in, then you can pull the mussel out and be like, oh wait, is this just filled with sand, and try to like pry it open. If it doesn't pry open, you can put it back in and count it as a live one.
Yeah, so I'm gonna like bend down with my knees. Put my mask on. Oh!
Not to brag, but I was the first person to find one. Pretty cool.
I believe we found one.
So this is really Eric showing us how we should put the mussels back into the habitat after we've taken them out to examine them, so they can live a normal life.
I'm not putting a big rock on him, so if he wants to get back out, he can do that. Grab it.
So far it's going pretty good. Seeing a lot of mussels. It's hard to stay balanced, but we're finding them. There. Look like rocks, but after a minute you find them.
powerful predictors so far are areas that aren't scoured during flood. So during a normal time like this, they can live in that fine sediment, they can live in the sand, they can live in the gravel. But if you think about what really hammers them is during a 100-year flood, they get scoured and bumped around, their shell's going to get eroded. So this area would be actually worse because the water would come up over that and create a big scour hole and real turbulence. Whereas just upstream where we started to see all the mussels, where this bedrock ledge, you know, doesn't allow the flow to accelerate, is actually better if you think about it in terms of the 100-year flood. So I would say we might see some in here, but I would, if I were a mussel, I'd want to be up by those boulders above.
So now that I knew where to look, I was assigned section 4, and I got looking. I did get a little distracted by fish on occasion here, but you know what? I'm also just talking about the nature of the bottles kill, so there's small and largemouth bass.
What I've been finding on my side is that there's so much silt that there's not much algae coming through it, and that's where you're finding all of
Yeah,
them.
right. So that's the thing about being on the bank.
Yeah.
And so I think I'd like to rotate. So gals rotate position, the guys rotate. And in particular, so see where that...
So we got our assignment, and after getting distracted by this smallmouth, I got back to work.
That's the biggest fish I've seen all day. The biggest fish I've seen all day. A big small guy.
We're nearly done walking down to an area where I can swim again. Definitely more fish than I imagined there being. Let's get back in there. Alright, that's our last of the surveys. We're about to go shuttle back and get out of these wetsuits.
So all in all, once we got back and we did all the data, we had found several hundred of them in the pollen's kill. They were doing pretty well from what we saw in this specific area. But, you know, it's not enough. We really got to start some awareness, and Delaware River Keeper is a really good way of doing that. But raise awareness of it, the protection of our East Coast waterways. It's a really important thing that we all can do to start saving and less polluting and helping our mussels. In Philly and the lower Delaware River, they are trying to breed them, but they're not having as much success. So really, as long as we can protect them and let them do everything naturally, we can really help our environment. I hope you all enjoyed this as much as I did doing it, and I'll catch y'all next time.